Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing on today? I am super duper excited. And guess what? We're hanging out with Sadeqa Johnson on today. Check us out, guys. We have on our red frame glasses on today. I love it. I love it. I love it. Of course, guys, you know what to do. Like, tag, and share. Tell a friend to come on down to the cafe because we're hanging out with Sadeqa Johnson on today. And of course, guys, if you do not know already, The House of Eve is also released in a paperback. And not only is it released in a paperback, but it's also a Target book club pick as well. So we're super duper excited about that. And of course, we're going to allow Sadeqa to introduce herself to the people on today.
Well, hello, Angela. Hi, Dahlia from is that Dallas? No, just Dahlia.
That's
Hi,
Dahlia.
Dahlia.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Well, hello, Angela. Thank you so much for having me. Hi, Myra. On the cafe, I love everything that you're doing with the cafe. I see all of your clips on TikTok, and you are doing a fantastic job. I want to thank you for amplifying Black voices and making sure that our stories get out to people and that we are heard. So, thank you for what you do. As she mentioned, I'm Sadeqa Johnson. I am the author of The House of Eve, also Yellow Wife. If you follow my historical fiction novels, prior to that, I was writing contemporary fiction. And so I have 3 other books: Second House from the Corner, and Then There Was Me. And I'm fast at work on a new novel. So put some good energy out there for me. Make sure my muse send me your muse's way, so that I can get that done and get another book in your hands.
I love that. And Sadeqa, look, thank you for spilling the tea and letting us know that you are working on a new novel as well. And speaking of that, guys, I don't know about you, but when Sadeqa first did the cover reveal for The House of Eve, I was overjoyed. Okay. And so then we had the release, and then it was like Sadeqa also let us know that it's a book club pick. So it was like a double yay. And not only that, guys, it was is a New York Times bestseller. So it was like a triple yay. Sadeqa, I am super duper excited, super duper proud. And The House of Eve for me, even though it came out last year and this year it came out in paperback, I just want you to know, okay, you ready for this tea? I still have a book hangover. I still have a book hangover. This book is like one of my faves. It's on my list of highly recommended books.
Aww.
Let me just tell you, Sadeqa, you put your heart and your soul into this amazing story. So congratulations to you. Kudos to you and all that The House of Eve gets. It deserves every bit of it. And speaking of that, what does that feel like for you? Because like I said, even when it came out into paperback, it's the Target book club pick. So what are all these things that happen with The House of Eve? How does Sadeqa feel about that?
Well, I have to just throw in there that I also was nominated. The House of Eve was nominated for my very first new NAACP Image Award.
Yes.
Yes, which is very, very exciting. Being nominated for an Image Award has been on my vision board for years and years and years. So to see it come to fruition has been phenomenal. But it feels good. It feels like I am standing in my purpose. And I'm doing what God has designed for me. I feel like everybody is given gifts. And writing and storytelling and speaking is the gift that he gave me. And so I feel like I'm honoring him by working hard at developing my talent and sharing my gifts.
I love that. I love that. And they are giving you love in the comment section. Sadeqa, they're telling you congratulations. Dahlia said, exciting congratulations. Myra is saying congratulations as well. Now, Sadeqa, for those who may not have heard anything about The House of Eve or what have you, can you share with us what inspired this amazing story?
Yeah, well, I was sort of at a crossroads when Yellow Wife went out into the world, as my 4th novel, but my first historical novel. It sort of took me to some places that I hadn't been before. It stretched me in a lot of ways. And I wasn't quite sure what I was supposed to be doing next. And I half thought, well, maybe it's not historical fiction. Maybe that was just that. And maybe I should go and write some YA books. But I started thinking about stories that my grandmother told me about herself, about our family. And my grandmother told me that she was the black sheep of our family, that she
Mhm.
had gotten pregnant with my mom at age 14. She gave birth to her at 15, and this was the 1950s, and she was unmarried, and girls just didn't do that. So there was a lot of shame and secrecy surrounding the birth of my mother. And it got me thinking about choices. What
Mm.
choices did my grandmother have when she found herself pregnant and in trouble in the 50s? Like, what options did she have? And this question led me to do a little research, and I discovered these maternity homes, which were homes for unwed mothers, where they went in, they had their babies, they often, surrendered their babies, and they were told that they can go home and pretend as if it never happened. But we
Wow.
all know that those scars run very, very deep, and it's not as
Yeah.
easy to pretend. And so that was sort of the nucleus in the beginning for me of writing The House of Eve.
Wow. Wow. Now, Sadiqa, I have to ask you about this. And one of the things is that the cover, we have the same beautiful cover for the paperback and the hardcover. Tell us about this cover. For me, it's stunning and it makes a statement in itself. But tell us a little bit about this cover and also share with us what was your reaction when you saw your final cover as well.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love it. I think that I have a wonderful art department at Simon and Schuster. I have a beautiful team at Simon and Schuster. I feel like one of the luckiest writers in the world because I have so much support. And when they produced this cover after a couple of rounds, we started off trying to get both girls on the cover because, it's the story of Ruby and Eleanor. But when we got to this cover, it was sort of like, well, it could be either Eleanor or Ruby. It could be the maternity home behind her, or it could be Howard University. And so we thought that the cover was so universal. And then when you get the Reese's Book Club stamp on top of it, the paperback has New York Times bestselling author on it. I mean, when you
Yes.
start adding all of those beautiful accolades, it just is beautiful.
It is. It is indeed. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about this title. And of course, you have shared with us that, there's this maternity home or what have you. But for the title, The House of Eve, was this Sadiqa's original working title, or did this title kind of evolve once you kind of got into this amazing story?
Well, my original title was Where the Bad Girls Go.
Oh, you're spilling some tea, Sadiqa.
That was my original title. That was my working title as I was working through the story because I thought, these girls go into this home and they were called, every word you can imagine: slut,
Yeah.
bad girls, wayward girls. And I thought, well, where the bad girls go is they go into maternity homes. But as the book matured and sort of escalated up the polls in Simon and Schuster, they thought, well, it sounds like a thriller. That sounds like a young adult book. Maybe we should look into a different direction. And so they helped me come up with the title, The House of Eve. Again, I told you I have an amazing team. So,
Yes.
mhm.
Well, just know, Sadiqa, that your fans, we love the cover and we love the title. Like I shared with you, is definitely one of the books that is on my high recommendations books that I am still talking about as well. Guys, if you are just joining us, we are hanging out with New York Times best-selling author Sadeqa Johnson talking about her book, The House of Eve. It is, of course, available in hardcover. It's available in audio, and now it is available in paperback as well. We will be sharing with you how you can get your hands on a copy of this amazing story. And if you have a question or a comment for Sadeqa, be sure to include it in the comment section. Now, Sadeqa, let's talk about these characters a little bit. Of course, we know that it takes place is two women or two young ladies. There's Ruby and there's Eleanor. But before we get into these characters who are complex, by the way, for you, what came first? Was it the characters or was it the plot of this historical fiction novel?
Was it the characters or was it the plot? You would think that would be like rolling off the tip of my tongue. It was a little bit of both because I
Okay.
have to say that Ruby was a character that had come to me when I thought I was departing from writing historical fiction and that I was going to write YA books. And I had this idea to
Okay.
write 3 books in the series, and Ruby was one of the characters. And when I told my agent
Wow.
about these 3 stories, she said, I'm interested in Ruby. And then I
Oh,
thought, okay. So then I thought about Ruby and I thought about my grandmother and I thought about these maternity homes and I started to thread that story through. So it was sort of a combination. Yeah.
wow. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That is interesting as well. Now, for these characters, let's start with we can start with Ruby and then we'll talk about Eleanor and we'll talk about some other characters as well. But for you, if you had to describe Ruby, what would you say about her?
Well, I always say that Ruby walked into my imagination and I saw her as beautiful. I saw her as having a very mature body, like shaped like a Coca-Cola bottle, right? And so she was
Mm-hmm.
curvy. She was 15. She was very smart, but she had a mother that wished she never had been born.
Woo!
And that is such a
Sadiqa.
weight to carry.
Yes. Yes. And there and guys, if you haven't read it, I mean, there are some moments where you are clutching your pearls. I mean, this is definitely a historical fiction with all the feels. You definitely get emotionally attached to these characters in this book as well. Now, Sadiqa, let's talk about Eleanor a little bit. What would you say about
Mhm.
her?
Well, Eleanor, she came second. So I was sitting in my office, right? And just trying to figure out how to string the story together. And in walked Eleanor. She
Wow.
was desperate. She was angry. She basically said, I need to have a baby. And I
Uh,
thought, oh, wow, I didn't know that I was writing a 2-person story. I thought I was only writing a 1-person story. And
right,
so when she
right.
came, I wasn't quite sure what to do with her. But that weekend, I had watched Toni Morrison's documentary, The Pieces I Am. And in the documentary, she said that she didn't know that Black folks separated themselves by color until she stepped foot on Howard University's campus in the 1950s. She said, growing up in Ohio, she had grown up with all types of people, Italians and Irish and Poles, and that Black folks didn't have time to pit themselves against each other. And I thought, whoa, well, what if Eleanor, this new character who just popped into my life, what if she grew up in Ohio and she goes to Washington, D.C., and she goes to Howard and she meets one of the most eligible bachelors, but he comes from one of those rich families that can trace their wealth and their status back 2 and 3 generations, doctors,
Mm-hmm.
lawyers, entrepreneurs. But those type of families didn't just mix with anybody. And so what would she do, in that situation, and how far would she go to fit in? And that was sort of my ideas for Eleanor as I started the book.
Wow, wow. Now, Sadiqa, okay, I want you to think about the characters, okay? And when you think about the characters, is there a character, and it could be, more than one, that was interesting for you to write, and then almost fun? And then on the flip side, was there a character that was like complex that at moments gave Sadiqa pause to say, you know what, I need to kind of woosah, get my
Yeah.
thoughts together for this particular character to be fleshed out?
Yeah, I would say the characters that sort of just walked on the page and they were fully formed and I just knew who they were was Aunt Marie, in Ruby's story.
Ooh,
Aunt
yeah.
Marie, just from the beginning, I knew she was a gun-toting, cross-dressing woman, lounge singer who didn't take no mess off nobody.
No.
And she was going to read, she was gonna take care of Ruby really well. And then
Mhm.
on Eleanor's side, I would say definitely Rose Pride, William's
Ooh,
mother. She pretty much walked into that kitchen and took over and took control, and
she
I just
did?
sort of followed her, and so she was pretty well formed. As far as characters that were difficult to write, I felt in touch in this particular book, in The House of Eve. I definitely felt in touch with all the characters. I will say, just going back to Yellow Wife for a second, when I had to write the jailer's character,
Ooh,
um, that was definitely difficult because he was a
I'm
man of two faces.
sure.
And so straddling that line of he loved Phoebe, but he was her tormentor was very, very difficult for me. But that
Mhm.
was Yellow Wife. In The House of Eve, I would say everybody pretty much played nicely with me as I was writing them.
And Sadiqa, I mean, oh my goodness, you dealt with some, you dealt with colorism, you dealt with classism, you dealt with different things in this particular book, or what have you. Can you share a little bit about like what was that research like for you for the House of Eve?
But researching The House of Eve actually was a pleasure. I spent a lot of time digging in my family history.
Oh, okay.
I talked a lot to my mom just about, she grew up in North Philadelphia. Ruby lived in North Philadelphia, and so I poked around in her brain, and the apartments that Ruby lived in were apartments that my mom described to me. So I did a lot of that, and then there was going to Howard University and going to DC to find the House of Magdalene. It was based on the Florence Crittenden home, and the building is still
Oh,
standing in DC. And I'm a feel it, taste it, touch it type of writer. So I had to
okay.
walk around and like put my hands on the building and feel the
Wow.
energy and picture where the girls lived in the home and that sort of thing. So the research was really fun. It wasn't as difficult for me as The House of Eve was. That was a book that took place over 100 years before I was born. So there was nobody to sort of interview and ask questions. But for The House of Eve, I was able to talk to people who lived during that time.
Gotcha. I love that. I love that. And one thing that I can share, Sadiq, when I know those that who may have read The House of Eve as well, you did an amazing job with both of the locations. Like in Philadelphia, you did when they was in DC. Literally, you felt like you was in those environments or what have you. Just from the apartment. I mean, just all of those things as well. So I want to let you know that I enjoyed that as far as when I was reading it. It definitely created an ambiance for this story as well. And so LaShawn shared that she just read a historical novel and found that she liked it. So she definitely need this one. Yes, LaShawn, you need The House of Eve. Let me just tell you, I highly recommend. But she wanted to know, was this story hard for you to write, meaning emotionally? Mm.
Hmm. It was hard to write, not emotionally, but structurally, because it
Mm.
was my first time working with two different characters in two different places and them having two different voices. So
Yes.
figuring out how to tell two separate stories, but make it one story, was
Mm.
probably the difficult part. Not necessarily writing it emotionally. My characters go through a lot of ups and downs, and so there were moments when they were crying that I felt like
Mhm.
I could cry. Their losses were my
Yes.
losses as a writer, so I was sort of right there with them as they went through their ups and downs. When they were in love, I was in love, all of that, and that's the
Right.
fun for me. That's the fun for me of being a writer. Is like I live in this whole other world for a couple of hours each day.
I love that. And Sadeqa, I'm glad that you shared that. And guys, she's getting ready to read a short snippet. So you guys get ready. But I'm glad that you said that about, writing the two different points of views and the two different characters and what have you, because one thing that I experience, guys, if you're just joining us, I shared with Sadeqa that I still have a book hangover, but for me, I enjoyed like both. Like it wasn't, you wrote it in such a way that when I was reading Ruby, I was in the moment. When you was writing or reading Eleanor, I was in the moment, but I wasn't wishing to be back and forth. I don't know if that makes sense. So it
Yes.
was equally as good. Like the story just flowed, and that I was like equally invested into both of their stories. And like you
Oh,
said,
good.
there are definitely moments that pull at your heartstrings where you want to cry with the characters. You feel what they feel, all of that good stuff too. So I just wanted to let you know that for me as a reader, this book in book math is a 10.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. That means a lot. I know you read a lot of books, so that means a lot.
Yes, yes. Well, guys, we are getting ready to let Sadeqa, she's going to set the stage. She's going to share with you about what she's going to read. And Sadeqa, we are ready when you are.
Okay, well, thank you. So I'm just gonna start from the beginning. It just feels like a good place to start. And so you'll only hear, actually, I'll read a small bit of Ruby and a small bit of Eleanor, but I'll start right at the beginning of each.
Okay.
Just to give you a little bit
I
of
love it.
flavor, just a little bit of the flavor. So I dedicated the House of Eve to my mom and to my grandmother.
Oh,
They were, yeah, since they inspired the book. And so I'll just start right at the beginning. It says, part one, every story has a monster in it who made them tough instead of brave. So they opened their legs rather than their hearts where the folded child is tucked. And that was a quote by Toni Morrison. So, chapter one, Philadelphia, October 1948. Mommies and Dragons, Ruby. My grandma Nini always said that early was on time. On time was late, and late was unacceptable. Fatty was unacceptably late again, knowing full well that I had someplace important to be. I didn't mind staying with Grandma Nini overnight once a week so that Fatty could clean offices. All I asked was that she be home in time for me to catch the bus to my Saturday enrichment classes. And for the third week in a row, Fatty dragged her heavy feet through Nini's apartment door, 15 minutes behind schedule, calling out in her high-pitched voice, "Ruby girl, I'm sorry. Let me tell you what happened." My cousin had more excuses than a hoe going to jail, and I didn't have time to entertain her colorful tales this morning. I had 1 hour to get all the way down to South Philly, and I twisted up my lips in a way that I hoped conveyed how annoyed I was over her lack of consideration. "You got my car fare?" I thrusted my hand in her face, but Fatty brushed past me in the narrow hallway, past the crooked family pictures that hung in mismatched frames, through to the small L-shaped kitchen. "Your mother said she'd leave it for you." A baby cockroach scurried from under the toaster, and Fatty smashed it dead with her palm. "You want to make me walk all the way back in the opposite direction? Just give me 20 cents. "I would if I could," she said, scrubbing her hands at the sink. "But I'm broke as a joke girl until next Friday." All right, I'm going to stop there. Uh-oh. Can
woo,
you hear me? Okay. All right. So I'll stop
woo.
there. Yes, and I'll just give you a small snippet of Eleanor.
Okay.
Um, so Eleanor is chapter 2, Washington, D.C., October 1948, The Line. Eleanor bustled across Howard University's campus, clutching the letter in her right hand. The return stamp was crested with the Alpha Beta Chi emblem. She knew it was what she'd been waiting for, a response to her interest letter to join the sorority. She had watched the girls move about campus with prominence all of last year. They were glamorous, always with their matching lavender scarves, tight knit sweaters, sleek high heels, and glossy curls. They did meaningful work like organize book drives for children, draw picket signs to support Mary Church Terrell in her tireless effort to end segregation, and collected food for the poor. But most importantly, they were the baddest steppers on the yard. When they twirled their pretty heads, called out, stomped, and clapped, everyone stopped at attention. While there were other sororities on campus, it was clear that the ladies in silver and lavender were the pinnacle of the pile, and Eleanor, now a sophomore and finally eligible, was eager to join them. So that's just a little small snippet.
Sadeqa, look, you got them all in. Oh my goodness. Jennifer Copeland said, I have to get this book. They said, great snippet, great narration. You had Sharon, she said that she didn't want you to stop. She was all in. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing two great snippets. Guys, if you're just joining us, hanging out with Sadeqa Johnson, we will definitely be sharing with you how you can get your hands on a copy of The House of Eve. And of course, we have a giveaway. Sadeqa will be giving away a print paperback copy of The House of Eve. And Sadeqa, I'm going to go up and down the comment section, my friend, and I'm going to get you to tell me when to stop. And that person will be the winner of a paperback copy of The House of Eve. Okay? I'm ready when you are. All right.
I'm ready. Good luck, everyone. Don't give me the names, just give me the comment.
Okay. Wait a minute. What about? Oh Lord. Come back. Okay. Look, Sadeqa, my comments went away. Okay, I'm ready. Just tell me when to stop.
All right.
Okay. You ready for me to stop?
I don't see the comments. I thought you were going to read them to me. I'm sorry.
Oh, I see them.
I don't
yeah,
see
you
them
just
on
gotta
my
tell me when to
end.
stop.
Okay. All right, sorry. Start over. My bad. My bad.
Okay, start it over.
All right, starting over.
Okay.
Ready? All right.
Okay.
Okay, stop.
Dahlia, you are the winner, my friend.
Wow,
if you want inboxing your information, we'll be sure to get that out. Congratulations, Dahlia. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
I love it.
Congratulations.
I love it.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Congratulations. And Sadeqa, we're so excited. Thank you so much for joining us on today, my friend. Can you please share with us how can they get their hands on a copy of The House of Eve?
Absolutely. Well, you can always visit my website, Sadeqa. I think it's Sadeqa.net. I know it is. It's Sadeqa.net.
It's Sadeqa.net, yeah.
Yes, it is. You can also please follow me on Instagram. I am trying to get to 10,000 followers on Instagram, and I am almost there. So my IG handle is Sadeqa Says. And obviously you can get it from any bookstore, but right now for the month of February, well, it's March now, but for the month of February, Target had a special edition of The House of Eve. And there are a lot of signed copies also at Target because I painstakingly signed a bunch of tip-in sheets over the holiday break. So hopefully you can get a signed copy from Target. But definitely support your local bookstores. If you have a local bookstore, go in and support them.
I love it. I love it. And also, Sadeqa, so you'll know, Riches in Reading Indie Bookstore, they also have copies of the paperback. They have hardcover copies too, but they also have copies of the paperback of The House of Eve. And I'll put that information in the comment section too. So guys, wherever books are sold, of course, it is the Target Book Club pick. So you can get it from Target as well. Sadeqa, thank you so much for hanging out with us on today. It has been amazing, my friend. And of course, you have shared with us your website. Guys, it is Sadeqa.net. If you go to Sadeqa.net and Sadeqa, on your website, is there a newsletter that they can sign up for?
Yeah, so as soon as you click on my newsletter, a sign will pop up for you to sign up for my newsletter. And I probably send one every 2 or 3 months. I'm not gonna send you a bunch of stuff, but I definitely like to keep my friends knowing when I have a new book coming out, when I have a tour, anything like that. So definitely check out my newsletter as well.
I love that. I love that. Well, guys, and thank you so much for joining us today at the cafe. That is our show. And Sadeqa, before we end, we want to allow you, my friend, to have the last words of what you want to say to the people.
Oh my goodness. Well, stand in your purpose. If there is something that God has put into your heart that you feel that you should be doing, but you are afraid, that's the thing you should do next. Go forward, my friend, and soar.
I love that. Thank you so much, Sadeqa. And guys,
Thank
of course,
you.
once you get your copy of The House of Eve, definitely leave a review. I know that Sadeqa Johnson will be so appreciative
Yes.
of that as well. And don't forget to tell a friend to tell a friend to get a copy of The House of Eve. And of course, as we always say, have an amazing day because we're having an amazing day. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.